Hi, Laura.
Hi, sorry, I have no idea why I couldn't get in, but wasn't working.
It's Zoom.
Okay, well, I'm the chair, I think, and John, so
I'm
should,
learning
okay.
from you.
Great. Well, updates. This morning, I was hoping to do it sooner, but got to it before the meeting. I had put in a bunch of the stuff that we talked about last time from the turf. And I wanted to look it over, and then I know John has an update, and then just see if anyone else had updates. But maybe we could start by updates, and then maybe Ian, you could pull up the documents after our updates, and then we could go through them. You're muted, Ian.
Sure.
Okay.
And
So John, do you want to go first?
Sure. I talked to Amanda Watson from Lake Oswego, and I put in there what their climate group is doing, which is, I believe on the 25th, they're going to present to the city council that they would like to do a ban of all gas-powered equipment. Not that that's real relevant to us, but they are doing the leaf blower. But the main thing they're doing is exactly what Portland is doing. And I think we're all familiar with what Portland is doing on their slow phase out of blowers. And Lake Oswego also is transformed, like much of Eugene, to the city crews are doing more and more electric, and they've contracted with all electric people to do some of their work. So they're headed that direction to the all electric, but they're going to do what Portland does most likely. And so it seemed to me, I also put the Portland document in there, that would be the logical suggestion for us. The two little worms are they both did do public hearings, and I assume that when council makes a decision that they then have to say, let's have a public hearing. And so the process becomes somewhat, takes time, and that's part of it. But they did hearings, and Portland is only doing blowers. Lake Oswego is hoping, but hasn't committed yet, to doing all gas stuff. And they both also, the people in Oswego had talked to Portland. They said it would be really nice if all the cities in Eugene, all the cities in the state wanted to do the same thing, that it might then provoke the legislature to do something more statewide as opposed to this patchwork. But that's something that would be nice if it happened, but certainly isn't on the horizon.
Mhm.
just on that, and I haven't seen, we're still going through bills. I've heard rumor that there might actually be a state bill this session on this.
Cool.
Great. Alexi, you were the other gas-powered person on the team. Do you have anything you want to add?
I actually think that what John's doing is most relevant. So a little, but I don't think we should waste time with it. I think following suit, the most reasonable thing to do is be consistent across municipalities in Oregon. So I think that's the best path.
Okay, great. Let's see, Dennis, you're muted.
I'm having problems with camera, so this is as close to being president as I can get. But I just wanted to ask Ian, do you know, kind of process-wise, is it appropriate commission to ask legislative affairs to track if anything comes up statewide? I'm just kind of, dancing around our appropriate role. There's possible state legislation around this issue. And we ask legislative affairs cities to keep us posted.
You're muted, Ian.
I'm still muted, sorry. So we are tracking this, so I think probably the request would come through me, Dennis, on this. I mean, I think if this is an actual bill that's going to show up, then this will be on my radar to track as it moves through committee.
Cool. Okay, thank you much.
And so maybe that's something, I mean, we can talk about it as it's something we can update this committee on. If this is something that should eventually maybe go in front of the entire commission, we can talk about that. But that's something I mean, I will be, or somebody on my team will be tracking this. If it's an actual bill, we'll be paying attention to it because it would impact, you know.
Right, thank
Great.
Cool.
So we'll switch over to artificial turf. Jan, do you have any updates?
I do not.
Okay. Anything else before we get into the document? Because my updates, I put them, I mean, they're not updates, I just summarize material. Okay, so let's go to the one that says informational memo for council. If you could pull that one up, Ian. And you are muted if you're telling us anything. So I just kind of filled out what we had talked about. And there was a few questions. You know, we said we were going to create 2 short informational bulletins about informational memos. And I just wanted to check back in and see if we still thought 2 were best, or if we just want to do 1 and have it have, you know, headings. So that's the first question for the group. And we could maybe come back to it after we look at what I put in. And so I just wrote a summary paragraph about why we formed, hoping Ian can just pop in that number because I didn't have it off the top of my head, kind of connecting it to what the city's already committed to doing. And then I did a summary paragraph about what we found with the turf. And then I did the ordinance option. So basically we found, when Jan and I did that research, we found like 3 different ways that artificial turf is being addressed. Like the first one is just a ban on all new turf installations. And there's several places. Nowhere in Oregon's done any of this that we saw. So this is all like out of state. So I put in a few examples and the Eugene specific recommendations. So what my take on it was, this is very simple and there's precedent from cities in a handful of states, but nothing in Oregon. The next type was the moratorium. So some places have wanted to do further research, and that, like an example for Massachusetts, they did a 3-year moratorium, so that can kind of stop new stuff from going in while the city has time to get a handle on what the potential challenges are, and maybe let the industry, you know, fix some of these problems like the toxic stuff in the material. So that is what I found with that. And then the last one was regulating the compounds of concern. And so this one, the state of Maryland regulates lead and PFAS. And that basically bans turf because they all have PFAS in them, even the ones that say they don't. When people have tested it, they actually do. And also the European Union banned the microplastics, and that extended to the crumb rubber infill. So that's kind of the 3 different strategies I saw. So if we want to just open it up to comments, if people want to, and you can also have time to go and read this and make line edits and anything like that. But I just want to take a little time to talk about what I popped in there this morning.
I think that's a good way to organize it. I appreciate that.
I have somebody at my door. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Okay. Uh-oh.
Anybody else have comments, questions? And especially about, oh, I just realized I never put the recommendation on the regulating the compounds, especially about like what we recommend. I mean, for me doing the research, and knowing this community, it to me seems maybe like the 3rd option, like regulating the compounds of concern is the best way forward. because no one is going to be arguing to put cancer-causing chemicals on children's sports fields when they're proven that it gets on their bodies and stuff. So that seems like harder to argue about, and also the microplastics, and especially since the Golden Gardens one is right by a sensitive
Mhm.
way. So my sense is that's the way that I think Eugene might want to explore first. Oh,
I would agree. I would agree with that. I think that's feels the least onerous.
I'm wondering though, if combining the justifications with a specific recommendation for moratorium rather than ban, it just gives time to sort of build the case.
Mhm.
And it just seems politically something the council may be willing to do more immediately, to just say, let's stop. Let's just stop doing it until we can assess more deeply. And so that's a thought that comes to mind to me, is specifically recommend a moratorium.
A moratorium on compounds of concern, or a moratorium on artificial turf?
An artificial turf, because it includes these compounds of concern and the other concerns as listed.
I think that's a good idea. Sorry, I agree. I think that's a good idea. Call it we recommend maybe a 5 to 10 year moratorium on artificial turf due to compounds of concern. And then it's pretty clear what we're talking about, and it's not saying, wait, does this extend to like pavers or, rubber mats? If it's the compounds of concern, then you have to check everything you could possibly think of that might have it and see if it does. But if we're clear and we say artificial turf appears to have concerning compounds, we recommend a moratorium on specifically artificial turf due to this, then it's more of a limited scope and easier to enforce than a simpler conversation.
That's a good point.
But that will essentially require Golden Gardens to do natural turf.
That's right.
Right.
We would be
And-
recommending that the moratorium begin in time for Golden Gardens to be covered, for sure.
Dennis?
Yeah. As the former childcare director, rubber mats and those other kinds of things are a whole other list of potential compounds that may be worth looking at down the road. But for now, if the issue is turf, then keep it focused on there. You're right, Alexi.
Yeah, the Maryland, they called it playground surfacing materials. So they were only looking at what you put on a playground.
Yeah, but that includes rubber mats. That includes more than AstroTurf.
It's true.
Well, did that include AstroTurf or artificial turf, as we call it?
Yeah, the Maryland
The Maryland one does. Okay.
Yeah. It was targeting artificial turf, but
Okay.
they said it in a. They said playground surfacing materials, which. So it sounds like this group is feeling like the moratorium on turf, just being explicit and clear, is the best way to go, and I think that is a good pathway, because some of these other communities, like, they required PFAS-free turf, and their contractor said, "Oh yeah, sure," and then they found out it wasn't. And another community required the turf to be recycled at end of life, and then they found out it was actually dumped in a warehouse. So we can cite those as the industry is having claims that aren't being fulfilled yet. So that's why a moratorium is appropriate, to just kind of wait and see if other places require PFAS-free turf, like, is it going to be able to be delivered or not? Because
Right.
the recycling.
So that would mean if somebody has PFAS or hazardous substance-free artificial turf right now, they still can't put it in
Right, if we do a moratorium.
because a moratorium, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I think it sounds like we're all in agreement. Any last thoughts about our recommendations? And I'll just kind of move it to the top to say, like, this is what we recommend, and then there are these other ways too.
I think that John's last point is some to think about. It may be a basis for some objections from some counselors or people And I'm not saying we shouldn't do it, but I just think we ought to be ready for that. So because, but I think what you, like you say, Laura, we can sort of explain that in the language, saying right now there doesn't appear to be any kind of turf that is certifiably PFAS free or recyclable. And so because of that, we would recommend a moratorium for a period of time until somebody can demonstrate that. But if somebody pops up and says, oh, I can demonstrate it now, that could be an issue. Not that I believe it, but
And we're including microplastics as our
right.
one of our, and it's going to be tough to have plastic turf without any microplastics.
Yeah.
Right. True.
Yeah.
So true. Cool. Yep.
Okay. So I think that document is, so I guess what do you think about, yeah, so the upper paragraphs, you guys can go through and edit them. Do you want to say anything about them now? Or do you want to wait on that?
It's a little hard to do it on the fly.
Okay,
for
so let's
me.
wait on that. So between now and next meeting, you'll all put your eyes on these upper paragraphs and make, Ian, can you click that little pencil in the right corner so people can see how to make edit suggestions? Just if someone go down and over to the far right, more over, yeah. Oh no, up. Sorry, just that little pencil. No.
No, back in that line.
Back in that, it's like right below where it says share. It says share.
You're close. You're very close.
You go down, don't click share, go down and click by that pencil.
Pencil.
I'm not seeing a pencil.
Little icon,
it looks like
slanted line.
Slanted line. And it's right below share. It's the only other thing you can click if you go below share.
The only thing
Go down.
oh, sorry. I had the Zoom box was in front of that, so I couldn't see the pencil.
Oh, okay. There you go. Yeah, so if you click suggesting, just click on suggesting. Now we can see what each other suggests. So that way, and then you can always make comments on the document too. So that's our path forward on this one. And then do you think, John and Alexi, you can do a similar thing for the gas leaf blowers?
Sure. And the two questions I had, though, were some places are banning their use. That's Lake Oswego and Portland. Other places are banning their sale, which I don't think would be very effective because we live right near a town that's not going to ban it. So we're going to ban use.
Yeah, and I think you should put in the different pathways other communities are taking, and then in the commentary you could say like this, this community banned the use of, banned the sale of, and then Eugene recommendations say this doesn't seem like it would be effective in the city, in the community of Eugene.
And are we banning or restricting? I mean, discussing banning or restricting. Is there a seasonal phase in, John?
Yeah, just like Portland did. I agree with you. Let's be together with this. Absolutely.
Okay, so then we're talking about a phased restriction on the use of gas-powered yard equipment.
No, the phased restriction on the use of gas-powered leaf blowers.
Thank you. Leaf
for
blowers.
Eugene. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Thank you.
And do we still want to do 2 memos? They are pretty different, and they are asking council to do different things.
Yeah, I think we should separate them.
Okay.
I think it will get a little more complicated and confusing if we try to keep them together.
Yeah. Okay, great. So we'll do that. So I think we can move to the other document, which is the draft community resource document. So this one, if you could start at the top, I really was uncertain about this one, but I just made a little, basic thing about how our yards have a role in the health of the communities and the planet. And then we said we were going to do problem and solution. So if you could go down a little bit, I just took a super rough stab at, if you can go up a little bit, just to, for the turf part, artificial turf. Vibrant green, nothing to weed or water sounds like the perfect lawn. Unfortunately, fake grass is far from perfect. So there was this quote that really summed it up pretty simply by someone from public. Yeah, it's on there. Yeah, I just took a rough stab, and I don't know what we want to go with this. I was feeling uncertain as I was doing this. So what do you think about our community resource document?
Where is the community resource document? Can I see it in my Google
Yeah,
Drive?
it's in
And
the Climate Friendly Landscape Committee folder. It
that's what I
says
thought.
draft community resource doc. And there's actually, Beyond Toxics has done put a lot of community resources about turf and linked to studies and stuff. So I don't know, maybe we want to just do something more simple, or maybe we want to do what we said, like highlight the main challenges and then link to a couple studies.
Can you scroll up a little bit? Is this, I'm a little, there we go. Okay. Mhm. Mhm. So I'm trying to recall how we pictured using this document.
Yeah, we said it would be for the community, since people have questions and we're doing this research, that we should package it in a
Mhm.
community-friendly format.
Sort of a background piece for the community.
Yeah. But we can also decide that that's not necessary, and we don't need to do this.
Right, well, for starters, if we had a document, it would be something when we're tabling and doing
Mhm.
as part of education and outreach. So that was my
Yeah.
thought on that one. The other one, in terms of tips, plant natives in that bullet list and kind of look at maybe expanding the list of resources. I'm sure there's, a variety of other community organizations around, native plants and some of those kinds of things. What my one, for example, I'm working on a hedgerow and I'm waiting for the Sierra Club sale of native plants. And how do we make people more aware of those resources in our resource list?
And
I
then
think it's a good beginning, Laura, a good outline. And
So we think we should keep going with this, because I can work on it
Mm-hmm.
more. I really, didn't have a lot of time.
Mhm.
Just
and so I have a question about the whole ban of those substances. Is this private property too? No, I mean, it
for
makes
the
sense. Yeah,
artificial
for
turf.
artificial turf.
Different communities did it different ways. Like some did private and public, some did, one did everywhere except for private property. You could have 200 square feet or
Right.
less. Like there's
Right.
a huge range of what places did.
And so what is our intended recommendation?
I guess I'm wondering what there's authority to do. I'm also thinking, you know, there's one lawn I see in town that is artificial, but it's relatively minor compared to sports fields, I would assume. But then you've got like the city, 4J, the other couple school districts that are somewhat relevant, although I don't think they're in the city, so maybe it's not technically Eugene.
Bethel has some, Eugene.
Okay, Bethel is somewhat in Eugene, thank you. And the university, and then you got like the YMCA type places that are potential, that I assume are the major entities that would consider turf. Other than that, it's basically yards, right? Or like apartment front lawns.
I mean, I think we should probably, to start out with, just do the big things. I think that's why Maryland did like playing fields.
Oh,
Right.
okay.
More people are going to get mad if you try to say anything about their yard. Like that's
Right.
just
Okay.
inherent.
I agree, and I think because we want to be thinking about the public impact, right?
Yeah.
And that I think is more clear when you're talking about playing fields where children play.
Yeah.
It's it's kind of the easiest place to start.
Yeah, I'm just asking, but I see it as a median strip in places,
Hmm.
you know, and it's right next to the place where you're required to have a rain garden to prevent certain runoff, but there it is right on the median strip. I mean, I don't know. I agree that big things are probably easiest to do first, but
Well,
I
if it's
wonder,
in go ahead.
I wonder if it was language that says public, you know, spaces and public use spaces, including sports fields, you know, but if the language is something like public and public use, it would include things like kids sports and YMCA, you know, as well as publicly owned spaces, and might address the one you brought up, John, as an example of median strips. So that's my thought about language in public and public use spaces being that initial moratorium.
Yeah, and I think with education, I think a lot of people just don't know. And if this will get press and there will be a community discussion about, you know, why would the city even think about this? And then people can learn about why it's not healthy. I think it would. A lot of people probably wouldn't choose to use it if they knew about the negative sides.
but some people would choose to use it if they knew about the negative side. I'm being a little silly, but that's why that truck is so big.
If it's median strips, that's city owned. I think that's certainly a smaller problem. And if we are successful in limiting use of turf, the artificial turf in playing fields, the city's going to become more educated. I don't think they're going to use it much in median strips. I think Dennis's suggested language maybe could work to sort of incorporate that, but it feels like sort of aiming at something that we can try to accomplish without as little controversy as possible is best place to start.
In a nitpick, the homeowner is responsible for maintaining the
you're talking about like
the space between the sidewalk and the street.
I see. I was thinking you meant the middle of the road medians. No,
I've seen it just a couple of places as people have put in between the sidewalk and the street, so they don't have to maintain that space. I agree. It's probably pretty tiny at this point.
Yeah.
Okay, so it sounds like we have a good sense of our recommendations, and we can also come back to them because we have another meeting. And we are going to continue on this with the lens that it's going to be used for tabling. So I think that can impact it. I mean, I'm going to look, there are some like healthy sports organizations. They might even have something already made. So I'll look for that.
Yeah, I saw a couple of those. I can look too.
Yeah, like look for an existing flyer that we can just tweak. Meant to educate the public. So anything else about this draft that you guys want to say now? Okay, and we'll go on the same route with the leaf blowers, like make a, there's probably existing info from Portland already out there to
Mhm.
educate
Yep.
people. Okay, so next steps. So Jan and I will go back over the turf. John and Alexi will go back over the leaf blowers. Dennis, we had broken it up that way. Do you want to be like the overall eye on all of it, or do you want to join with one of the options?
Yeah, I can look at language and suggest some language pieces and stuff, as I'm coming in late. Having missed, earlier meet. But the other piece, just looking ahead in terms of months to come of what's this done, I'm gonna bring it up in a discussion when we talk about urban forestry is, what do we look at heritage trees, and is that within the broader scope of this committee? To perhaps look at, and hopefully we'll have more information when we hear our last meeting about urban forestry plan and how it might be, most politic for this group to weigh in on those issues. So that's one of my continuing concerns, particularly on that one when we can go back to commission history and say the commission has brought it up before. Isn't it about time that there actually be a response?
Yeah. And Dennis, we had talked about just not having the capacity to add in more stuff like around trees in this committee, though we did want to have that little paragraph at the end to kind of catch all the other topics and
Right.
reference out.
Right, and that was my if these pieces move forward and the committee feels like, all right, that's done, then possible next step might be. But it might be something that comes from the committee as a whole at the commission level in response to what we hear about the forestry plan.
Okay. Can we give ourselves a deadline of next week by 12 p.m. to do this?
Next Thursday?
Next Thursday.
Okay.
Okay, sure.
I like it.
So
Sure.
next week by Thursday. That way we can have that to edit because we'll need a little time. And
Right.
by Thursday, 12 p.m. to put in everything.
That is the 23rd.
Yeah, I'll need to do it in the next few days because I'm leaving for a couple of weeks next Tuesday.
Okay, great. I mean, not great that you're leaving, but great that you have time for the next few days to look at this.
I've got some.
That's great too.
I've got some writing time, and that's what I'm up to in these next few days. So,
Okay.
Laura, can you be sure that stuff gets sent to me because I didn't get it before?
Yeah. Can you
I think-
do, Ian put the links in the chat? If you click on them,
Yeah,
do you
yeah.
have access?
I've opened the one, and I'll open the other one.
Okay, so you can get into them.
Yeah.
Okay, so by next week we'll put everything in, and then we'll have 2 weeks to massage it. And so by the time we get to our next meeting, we can finalize it. Does that sound like a plan?
Sounds good. Yep.
And this will be a new document for the gas, for the leaf blowers though, or is the informational piece, there's two parts to it. There's the information for the public, and then there's the council memo. The council memo is a separate document.
Yeah, maybe I should just break them out like right after we get off this Zoom into so we have 4 documents we're working on. I think that will be. Does that sound right?
It makes sense to me.
Yeah, so there'll be
and
like
then
a
just-
handout, 2 handouts, and then 2 council memos.
Mhm, mhm.
Will you email us links to all 4 of them just for convenience so they're all in one place?
Yes. I'll
That would be
email the
helpful.
links.
But they'll all be in the
Google Drive.
drive spot that I'm learning more than I knew before about.
I suppose if they're all in the folder, it doesn't really matter because they're in the folder. So that sounds good.
Okay, well, I'll do it anyway. It's easy.
Plus we get more email that way.
Maybe more emails. Have the deadline in it plus the links. Okay, I think
Yeah,
we're
that's
pretty
helpful.
done, unless there's anything else people want to talk about.
John, do you want to talk one-on-one about the stuff we're working on?
Sure. And you could all go away and we could have 5 minutes or you can listen. Well, I'm semi-serious. I was going to just cut and paste and massage the Portland official document as the recommendation. It's a little lengthy as a memo, or so maybe that's a question. Do we use their actual statute?
I
Or do
think
we,
a little bit of intro and then a pasted in example statute from Portland would be
Okay.
really convenient for the counselors. They don't have to click a link
Okay.
and find a different thing. It's like, here's the language that Portland did.
Yeah, do
Okay,
it as an
perfect.
You
appendix.
could
That way
also
the
do the
document,
Portland ordinance as an addenda.
yeah,
Yep.
appendix. It could be like,
Exactly.
right. Just as they did, they went through all this, and I would just cut and paste that. And if you wanted, Alexi, to work on the public information and the reasons to do this and the alternatives, that would be nice. And then we can both edit each other's with suggestion edits, or I don't care how we do it, but I'm a little
You can
confused.
just
As,
edit
I don't want
stuff and-
to, sounds good. Sounds
Yeah,
good.
we'll
But
just make changes and they can be reviewed in Google if we need to, but
sounds good. So I'll do the memo to the council based on the Portland piece.
perfect.
Okay.
And I will sign off.
okay, bye, Jan.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you.
So Lori,
This-
you're making the 4-doc
Yeah.
shell.
I'll do that right now, right after I sign off, and then
Great.
send out that email.
And is that communication sufficient for you, Alexi?
Yeah, I'm good to go.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, well, I'm gonna sign off too.
And I had one more question for you, Alexi. What's the name of the company you have? Because it sounds fascinating.
Oh,
That you're working for?
yeah, it's called New Buildings Institute, NBI.
That's right. Okay. Okay. Thanks. Okay. Bye-bye, kids.
See you later.